This company is an example of just a company doing cool things and inventing cool stuff. In the investment world and business world, we call that innovation.
Do you want a wealthy retirement without worrying about money? Welcome to the Retire in Texas podcast, where you will discover how to enjoy your faith, your family, and your freedom in the state of Texas. And now, here's your host, financial advisor, author, and all-around good Texan, Darryl Lyons.
Hey, this is Darryl Lyons, CEO and co-founder of PAX Financial Group, and you're listening to Retire in Texas. Remember, this information is general in nature. It's not intended to provide specific investment, tax, or legal advice. Visit paxfinancialgroup.com for more information. So, what's the best way to accumulate wealth? I'm sure that you've thought of this question over the years. What's the best way to accumulate wealth? Some may say the lottery. Actually, there's probably a demographic group out there that sincerely believes that. Some may say gold. Many people would say real estate. And I would suggest to you, with evidence to support it, that the best way to accumulate wealth is by owning a business, bar none. And you might say, well, real estate. If you're passive in real estate, if you're passively owning real estate, it's different than actively owning real estate. If you actively own real estate, you don't own real estate. You're in the real estate business. But I'll digress. Owning a business is, bar none, the best way to build wealth. But if you didn't start or inherit a business, that's okay, because the capital markets give you an opportunity to own a business. The problem is we oftentimes lose that perspective because our investments and the companies that we own are tucked into a structure that can be confusing, and that could be a mutual fund, an exchange traded fund. Oftentimes you hear me use the word strategies or portfolios, and it begins to feel, this is just feel, nebulous and almost as though the odds are stacked against you, when in fact, historically, the odds are in your favor. But let me remind you that investing is, the very essence of it, is in fact owning companies. We often say buy stocks, but buying stocks is synonymous with owning companies. It just often gets lost in translation along the way. So let me remind you of examples, or through examples. Let me remind you through examples of owning companies. I pulled out some companies from one of our portfolios that we use that screens through a biblical responsible investment screening methodology. And I pulled out 4 samples, and these are not companies I am recommending. So if you go out and place trades on these particular companies, that's on you, not on me, because you have to consider trend analysis, fundamental analysis, and prices of these securities before you purchase on your own. But generally speaking, I want you to know how this whole game of investing works. And it's hard to understand when you get disconnected from owning these companies. So I'm going to give you 4 examples. This company is an example of just a company doing cool things and inventing cool stuff. In the investment world and business world, we call that innovation. Innovation. But that's just a long word for saying this company is doing really cool things. And this company is called Align Technology. They make Invisalign. Now, some of y'all might remember I used to have braces as an adult. And I mean, eating salads was problematic, obviously. And when they broke, that was no fun because they'd poke your cheek. I could not get Invisalign. It did not work for solving my problem. But as I understand it, it works for a lot of people. And last time I checked, almost everyone in the world has teeth, almost. And so this market is absolutely huge. And Joe Hogan, the CEO, said that they want to grow their business 20 to 30% a year. They're going after this marketplace aggressively. They will continue as an organization to think deeply about increasing sales, reducing cost, innovating. They even came up with this thing called the Smile tool, where you can go online. It's an app. I've never used it, but you can see what your smile would look like before and after Invisalign. Take a selfie, and one with crooked teeth and then the next one with not crooked teeth. It's kind of cool. They also just recently did this acquisition of a company called Cubicure. And this company is a 3D printing company. It's got patented hot lithography technology, and this technology produces really tough and temperature-resistant polymers. So think of it this way, like imagine you sketching out something in general, like you sketch out a part for your plumbing system or your sprinkler system, and you sketch it out. They'll take that, they'll upload it to their computer imaging, and then in a few days later, well, they put this computer image into they put the information into this big oven looking thing. And then a few days later, they produce, using 3D printing, this custom part for your sprinkler. I mean, this technology is absolutely insane what they can do. It's like this big, huge Cubicure oven. And so they're doing this with Invisalign to improve the technology and improve the client experience, speed and efficiencies and product character, the substance of it, making it stronger, because these things do break. This is just a company that's thinking deeply about this vast marketplace, not only in the US, but globally, and finding ways to innovate. And those are just a couple examples. So let's go to the next one, Fortinet. Now, the bad guys are not going away. I mean, think about it. If you remember some of the episodes I've done before, ID theft is prevalent. I mean, this is coming at us every single which way. And we think about it as individuals all the time. Alerts on our bank account, we see it. We know it exists. But for businesses, it is not only challenging, but it's expensive. There was a meat supplier, JBS, that was a victim of a ransomware attack. And they had to pay $11 million in Bitcoins to the hackers. There was a pipeline, Colonial Pipeline, had a ransomware attack, had to pay $4.4 million in Bitcoin to hackers. I mean, this stuff is killing our businesses, and we need cybersecurity, and we've got to pay a ton. Even PAX does a ton. And I mean, it's a big budget item now. You just have to do it. Whether these adversaries are domestic or foreign or rogue mobster groups, when the company gets hit, there's financial losses, there's loss of productivity, there's reputation damage, all kinds of problems. And so you need a cybersecurity company like Fortinet. And that's, by the way, Fortinet. So there's an I in there, but it's Fortinet. But you need a company that's thinking deeply about how to get in front of these bad guys through data protection, network design, vaulting, training, detection, like breach notification, even thinking about every industry's laws and regulations, crisis management. What do we do if something happens? Penetration testing. Hey, let's just hack in, see if we can hack in. I mean, you need good guys out there that know this stuff. And Fortinet is one of those companies. They started in 2000. They have over 13,000 employees worldwide. And if you think cybersecurity is going to continue to be a threat for years to come, then you're going to want to be an owner of a company like Fortinet, where, I mean, the founder and CEO, he's a Stanford guy, highly regarded cybersecurity expert, still running the company as a CEO. And so if your thesis is bad guys are still going to be around, you're going to want to own a company that's coming up with solutions to protect the good guys. Example number 3. So healthcare is continuing to be a trend. I mean, I guess this will never end, but we all want to be healthier. But the big trend, and you probably have started to hear a lot about this, is these obesity drugs. And they're GLP-1 drugs. That's oftentimes how they're referenced. They're considered miracle drugs. You can have about a 15 to 20% decline in weight as a result of taking these drugs. Certainly there's side effects. Certainly there's indirect consequences. But one of the things that we're hearing a lot of is that in order to keep the weight off after you take these drugs, you have to exercise. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, but if this is the case, then you start to think, okay, well, what about the fitness industry? Is there any play there that I can own a company in the fitness industry that might actually have more potential clients to buy their products. And one of them that you might consider, again, I shouldn't say you might consider, if you're an owner, what I'm trying to do is not like pitch stocks, because that's the last thing I want to do. What I'm trying to do is give you examples of companies that we've used. But one of them is Garmin. They're often known as the GPS manufacturer. But the cool thing about them is the wireless technology. So you don't necessarily have to rely on a cell phone tower. So if you're a boater or a pilot or a hiker or fisherman, you can get information that you need to make better decisions, right? And it also does a lot of fitness tracking. But this company is, again, a company that has smart people that's thinking deeply about, okay, if there's a trend to get healthier, how do we tap into that? And you think this company is just going to kind of casually think about it? No, they're going to think about it very, very deeply. There's 14,000 people that work in this company, 65 offices worldwide. They're going to be all over the weight loss industry. And in fact, the guy that still owns it or co-founded it, Dr. Min Kao, he's still the executive chairman. He has his master's and PhD in electrical engineering. He was involved in research for NASA and the U.S. Army. So this company is one that I think that if you own this company, you may be tapping into a potential trend. And now it's peripheral to the primary trend, which is these obesity drugs. But some of these peripheral ones will ride the wave, so to speak. Okay, fourth one. Now, the thesis here is that India will continue to grow. And those that don't know, India is really going to be the biggest. I think it actually is already the most populous country in the entire world. And the middle class is growing. And I've said this before, but what happens when a middle class emerges, they're done with dinner. They actually have a nice dinner. And they're like, I want some ice cream. So they go to the refrigerator and get some ice cream. Now, here's what happens. That helps the ice cream industry in India, right? But it helps the refrigeration industry in India. It helps the distribution of the ice cream, and it helps manufacturers across the country all through the supply chain. So they're having a huge population boom, specifically though, in the middle class. And one of the things that happens when you join this middle class is you start to get vehicles, transportation. And there's a company called Warner. They're out of Detroit. They have 40,000 employees. They make transportation parts. And that could be anything from a little electric motorcycle to kind of zip around these major cities to actual cars. And it could be electric. It could be hybrid. It could be the traditional combustion. But Warner out of Detroit, 40,000 employees, they make these parts. And so if you think that there's this middle class in India that's going to participate in the automotive boom over the next 10 years, and you want to participate that, and you're like, I don't know about owning Tesla, I don't know about owning Ford. Warner is like, hey, we're in the background. We don't need everyone to know us, but we're making the parts for all these automobiles, not just automobiles, but transportation across the world. So when it comes to investing, and you think about it through the lens of owning these four companies, think about like, these are companies that are innovating. They're the good guys fighting against the bad guys. They're thinking about health trends. They're tapping into this growing middle class across the world. And the best way, I challenge you to find data that's contradictory to my claim, but the best way to accumulate wealth is by owning a company. And I'm very, very pleased to participate in this capital markets where people who, like me, didn't grow up with money can invest in this and have a piece of ownership and participate in these ongoing trends with very smart people who are passionate about what they're working on. And, oh, by the way, I'll also say, let's not forget, they're very much incentivized to grow. Let's not forget that. All the CEOs that I mentioned, their stock options and their incentive plans are specifically aligned with your best interests. Now, of course, it's not perfect, but if you expect perfection, it's Pollyannic. But generally speaking, this thing's working really well because incentives are in place for these executives to grow the companies. I just want to be a part of that, and I hope you do too. So I hope that helps put things in perspective. This is not about investing in this nebulous world of Wall Street where the odds are stacked against you. This is simply owning good companies over an extended period of time and be able to participate in their growth in such a way that you get to accumulate wealth for the benefit, not just for the rich to get richer, but for to do the things that God has called you to do. Hope that helps. I'll do more of these. If you think they're good, if you want to hear more about some of the companies, please let me know, ping me. I'll do some more series on this. I've got tons of companies to cover and happy to do this anytime. Thank you again for tuning in. And as always, you think different when you think long-term. Have a great day.